We are there to help people change their lives, to stop committing crimes, and also to hold them accountable for the crimes that they have committed. If we didn't have probation and we locked everybody up in county jails or state prison, the system would bog down very quickly and it would be very, very expensive. Probation is a relatively low-cost alternative to incarceration. We do two things for the courts. One, we provide a social history of the person who's going through court and make recommendations on sentencing or dispositions in the juvenile cases. We assess the person's risk to reoffend based upon their needs. High-risk offenders are ones that have a higher risk of obviously reoffending, and therefore we provide more intensive supervision as opposed to somebody who's medium risk, which would get less contact, less services. The theory being that if they're less likely to reoffend, then we want to focus our attention on the people that are most likely to reoffend, and then essentially doing what we call risk-based supervision. The average probation sentence is 3 years. Supervision officers are the ones that are primarily responsible for monitoring the cases that are placed on probations. They'll have case plans, they'll have a risk assessment for that person, and they'll meet with the person regularly, whether it's in the office or at their home, and talk about how they're doing. Probation officers would do drug testing, searching of the home, looking for contraband, those kind of things. And all those things are tools that the probation officer uses to help rehabilitate the offender and to assist them in turning their life around to get out of their life of crime and be productive citizens in our community again. And of course, the visits many times are unannounced in that we want to make sure that the person is in their natural environment and not something they artificially created for our visit. We have a 45-bed juvenile hall that was built in the 1980s. It was a very modern design at the time it was built, so it doesn't look very institutional, although over the years it's been more hardened to fit the population that we're dealing with now. The juvenile hall has an accredited school where the kids can actually receive a high school diploma. We have nursing staff to care for their medical needs and mental health staff to care for their psychological needs. One of the most important things we do in juvenile hall is provide activities for the youth. They have music classes, they have art classes, they have reading classes, all those things, and these are people in the community that volunteer their time and are overseen by restorative partners. Probation is in charge of collecting victim restitution. This is if somebody commits a crime and they've done harm to another person, destroyed property, stole money, caused them to receive medical care, something like that, that person will be ordered by the court to repay the victim for the costs that they caused the victim. Probation's role in our county is to collect that restitution on behalf of the victim. Probation makes a recommendation on what we think is the appropriate amount of restitution, but the court makes the final determination. Crime happens in our community, and we have to have an appropriate response to crimes. Law enforcement is in charge of investigating the crime and arresting the people responsible for the crime. The courts process those people, but then probation is at the other end. So what do we do with them now? How do we give them appropriate sanctions for the behavior, but also how do we work with them so they're not committing crimes again in our community? As we look into the future, probation will again work to be on the cutting edge of probation in the state of California.